Good afternoon, welcome to this week's edition of Four Wheels and a Seat. My name is Alex Dalrymple. This is my channel where I review new cars every week in a pretty simple, straightforward, easy to understand way. Ideal if you're looking for a new car and you don't know which one to get. I can maybe help you out. But you don't want to miss an episode though, because the car that you want might be on next week's show, you never know. Hit the subscribe button down below, the notification bell, and if you enjoy the video, please do give me a like. Once again this week, I am back in the Honda Civic. I think this is possibly the third or fourth time I've reviewed this particular generation, but Honda have done a little bit of an update, so I thought it was probably worth checking it out. And it seems to be going well for Honda because they are now selling 80% more Civics than they were this time last year, so good work. They've thinned down the range to just two models, the entry-level L and this one, the LX. There's the Type R, but that's a completely different beast altogether. And both of the Civics are now hybrids. The petrol model has been deleted. From the outside, this year's Civic looks much the same as last year's. The front grille has been tidied up a little bit perhaps. There are some new 18-inch wheels, and this particular car comes in Honda's new signature color, which is seabed blue, which I really like. At the back of the car, the exhausts have been hidden away underneath the bumper. In the back, there's about 410 litres of storage space, which is down a bit on the previous generation Civic, because my one, I think, from memory, is around the 500 litre mark, and that's admittedly a sedan, but you know, about the same size car. Both specs of the Civic come with the same engine, which is a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine mated to an electric hybrid motor. In fact, there's actually two electric motors. I'll go into that in just a moment as to why. And the power goes to the front wheels only via a constantly variable transmission. The reason there's two electric motors is because one is one that provides propulsion for the car. The car can sometimes run in full EV mode when you're traveling at low speeds or cruising along the freeway. And there is a second electric generator which is used to top up the battery when it is a bit low on charge. You hear that kick in usually just when you're starting to drive off, and if the car hasn't been used for a while, like in, you know, first thing in the morning, that kind of thing. Inside, and the Civic is more or less the same as it was, which is a good thing because it's really nice. I like this interior a lot. Here in the top spec LX, we get leather seats that are heated with full electric adjustment, a great mix of materials, including this very nice honeycomb grille across the air conditioning vents. Bit of piano black, but we'll give that a pass. And I like the textured plastic down here on the lower console. The center console screen is still 9 inches, could be bigger, but the software on it has had a little bit of a tweak. The graphics look a little bit smaller to me than they were in the previous model, and there is now also full integration of some Google apps. So there's Google Assistant. If you want to use your voice to ask it various questions, you can do that. Google Maps are now native, and there is also access to the Google App Store. I'm sorry, they do have a different name for it, but you can install apps on there if you want to sign in and customize your car that way. Wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, works really well, really smoothly. There is a 12-speaker Bose sound system, and both models of the Civic get that, which is nice. And the reversing camera image is, could be a little bit better. It's a little bit low res. There's only one camera, it's at the back. There isn't one at the front, which is becoming a rare thing not to see a front-facing camera these days, or indeed side cameras, so there's no top-down 360 view. There are parking sensors, but it just feels a little bit behind the times compared to what we're seeing from some other car makers at the moment. Climate controls kept completely out of this screen. They run from the lower down on the console here with physical buttons and some nice metallic feeling dials. It's a really nice, simple, easy to use setup. When this model of the Civic originally came out, it had USB-A ports. They've now been replaced with USB-C. There's wireless phone charging. Down here on the lower console, the gear shifter, the big stick has gone altogether and been replaced with a push button control, which actually I really quite like. It's takes a little bit of getting used to, but I really like this. Back when I was a kid and I used to do drawings of futuristic cars, my cars always had push button gear shift, and now we're actually here. We're living in the future. The center console bin has a nice big storage area, and there's a little Easter egg here for Honda fans. There is actually a little graphic here saying the Civic history goes on, and a cool little device to show you the exact day that this car was made. No head-up display. Again, that's something I would really like to have, but unfortunately not. The digital instrument cluster is, well, fully digital when this model of the Civic first came out. The entry-level models, I think, had a hybrid digital analog screen. It's now completely digital. 2 different display modes, nice sharp graphics. You can scroll through various bits of trip computer information on there, plus you can have your music for the Apple CarPlay system displayed on there as well. Steering wheel, nice feel to it. Here in the top level LX, it is a heated steering wheel, and there are paddle shifters to change gears. There aren't gears because it's CVT, but you get the idea. And it's leather wrapped with stitching, has a really nice feel. The seats, as I mentioned, are leather. We do sit very low in the cabin here, or at least you can make it sit very low, which I really like. It feels like a really nice, sporty driving position. And I almost feel like I'm sitting on the road. We're so low. It feels like every other car on the road is higher up than we are, even though we're not. So what's it like to drive? Really nice. I really like driving this car, and it's not just because I'm a Civic owner, but maybe it is because I feel instantly at home here. It just feels so natural getting in. It just feels comfortable and familiar. The proportions are all very similar to my Civic, so everything's sort of where it sort of feels like it should be. And the way this car goes around corners and accelerates, it is all very familiar, which I really like. There is a bit of road noise though, and that is particularly noticeable if you're on a coarse chip bit of bitumen, and on the freeway too when you're at speed. It just gets a bit loud in here, so much so that my daughter was in the back seat the other day and she couldn't actually hear what my wife and I were talking about in the front. Maybe not such a bad thing actually, but point being, it can be quite loud in here. Having said that though, you don't really hear much from the powertrain at all. I mean, it's almost impossible to detect when you switch between electric motivation and switch back to petrol. It's very smooth, very quiet, and the only time you really hear from the engine is if you really plant your foot down. So because Honda always try to make their cars a little bit more dynamically interesting to drive, it's not the softest suspension you're going to find, but it's not too firm either. It's just right. It's just in that sweet spot where you can have that little bit of dynamism going around corners at speed, but you're also not feeling like you're floating on a cloud. One other small change they've made with Apple CarPlay is when it is in full screen mode, you can actually push a button up here in the top right hand corner and it will reformat the screen, making it a little bit smaller, but it will put the home screen shortcut buttons here on the right hand side so you can easily access the native maps if you want to change radio stations or something like that. You can do that, and then at the push of the button again, it goes back to full screen Apple CarPlay. It's very zippy. 315 Newton meters of torque in a car this size is actually quite a bit. And when you put your foot down at the lights, you do get a nice little boost off the line there. Is the Honda Civic a turn-back car? A car so good looking you have to turn back and look at it after you've parked it? Look, I'm going to say yes, because I'm a bit of a Civic fanboy and you still don't see a lot of these on the road. They're still just a little bit rare. And look, I think the high price that Honda charge for these is probably the main reason for that. But you do get a sense that you are getting what you pay for, because the build quality just feels fantastic. And as I said, it's really, really good to drive. So in some ways, I think that's actually quite justified. But point being, yes, for Honda nerds, you definitely turn back and look at it after you parked it. So just like I said about the Honda Accord, there should be more Civics on the road. This is a really good car that I feel that not enough people know about. And look, its price doesn't really help its case, but I think people are kind of catching on to it, because as I said at the top, they're now selling a lot more of these than they were 12 months ago. So if you're in the market for a really well-made, hatchback that is really a lot of fun to drive and is extremely economical as well, check out the Honda Civic. Take one for a test drive. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.